Hi, thanks for clicking on the English Year 9 options post there. You might be wondering why English is on the options clicks, because actually it's something that everybody in the year group is going to take. But I'd like to talk you through why English is such an important foundation for everything you do in Key Stage 4. So in Year 10, everybody studies English, but it is the point where we split the subject into two different qualifications. We're going to study both English language and GCSE English literature. And yes, that does mean that at the end of it, you get two qualifications rather than just the one. And I want to be really clear at the start what the difference between those two are, because although they are separate GCSEs, the skills from each make you better at each individual subject. They also make you a lot better across all your other subjects as well, which is why English is at the heart of the curriculum. So the big difference between English literature and English language is English language is all about developing your reading, writing, speaking and listening skills. It's about your creation, but it's also about your interpretation. We'll read a lot of short extracts, short stories, short segments, and we'll be always asking, how does the writer achieve a particular effect? Why does language behave in that particular way? But we'll also be focusing on creating our own writing, whether that's creative stories, whether it's learning to write in formal letters, whether it's making our opinions and our attitudes clear in our writing. And what I really want to stress with English language is that yes, most of us are already familiar with it, but we're looking to become specialists. We're looking to control our meaning at GCSE. And we also study English literature. Now, English literature is the study of language as an art form. It's the idea of exploring prose, poetry, and drama texts. You've encountered all of these at Key Stage 3, but we will be diving into a lot more depth when we go to Year 10 and 11. English literature is all about the great works of English, how they reflect life around us, how we can appreciate that, how we can understand it. And you see from my little diagram at the top that actually English language and English literature are not separate. The skills that you develop in English language help you to be better at understanding and interpreting literature, finding those hidden meanings. Equally, that little bubble with English language and English literature could go out and feed all of your other subjects, because even maths spends a lot of time describing and explaining the effects of things. So that's why English really, really matters and why we do two different types. Why should we study English language? Well, I've kind of already spoken about some of the things it does, but actually it's about developing your reading and interpretation. It's not just about being able to understand something, it's being able to understand language fully, to find the hidden meanings, the implications, all of those little subtle patterns. And it's also about making your communication skills the best they can possibly be. It's about stretching those communication skills and becoming the most adept speakers and writers to get your point of view across. Most of all, my last bullet point there, it's all about this accurate and fluent personal style. It's about you. It's about how do you communicate? How do you get your ideas across? The absolute golden skills in English are to be clear, to make your meaning absolutely precise, but to be crystal clear and so clean cut that people can't misinterpret you, which is a lot harder than it sounds talking over a PowerPoint. It's the technical side of English. Now, what makes a good English language student is someone who pays attention to the patterns, someone who realizes that English has lots of rules and lots of patterns that apply in some situations. There are not hard and fast patterns in language, they change. And a great English language student looks at the words, the patterns, the speeches, the writing in front of them and asks, why does it happen that way? And by doing that, they improve their pronunciation, their grammar, their vocabulary within English, and they become a more diverse and more precise learner, which spirals out and helps all of your other subjects as well. They always ask why writers do things in a certain way. Why does language behave like that here? What's the effect and impact of the language choice? And they take that knowledge and turn it into their own writing. They go, oh, great. I can't just use language to communicate. I can use it to persuade, I can use it to manipulate, I can use it to advise, to guide, to caution. Language is at the heart of everything, and English is our main tool of communication. Most importantly, you read regularly. Now, don't fall into the mistake of thinking literature is all about reading the books. It certainly is. But the wider you're reading, the wider your knowledge of text, the better your skills in English. Now, in terms of jobs, it can take you to all sorts of places, and actually anything that's got communication, writing, or knowledge of how those things work. So you might think about advertising, you might think about marketing, you might think obviously about writing, it's the easy one, but you might think about journalism, going into newspapers, into media, into publishing on websites. You might think about consultancy and law, where you need to think about exactly how that language is being used. You might also think about the study of linguistics itself, about being able to communicate your meaning across foreign languages. But don't forget that all the careers that you might look at in sciences, engineering, technology, maths, they need a lot of English, because if you can't explain what you're doing, if you can't make it clear, your knowledge can't be articulated. So English language, it's a cop-out answer from me. It's at the heart of everything, but it also has some very specific uses for it. It's one of the most useful GCSEs you will study. Flip side, English literature, where language is broad and we study lots, English literature, we really want to focus our skills on precise types of text. So we look at a modern play, or I won't say modern because it's a 20th century play and we are in the 21st century. We look at Inspector Calls as an example of British culture in the 20th century. How did we become what we became, and how did our writing reflect that? We look at Macbeth, a classic Shakespeare play, and we will go into much greater depth. I know some of you will already be aware of parts of Macbeth. We'll look at A Christmas Carol and the Victorian age of writing, and we'll look at poetry to do with the themes of power and conflict across a range of sources. And there's loads of reasons to study English literature, not least that everything we read is genuinely fascinating. But it teaches us a lot of history, it teaches a lot of theory, it teaches a lot of criticism. We learn a lot about how people think from the way they express themselves on the page. It helps us to understand intellectual tradition, to think, okay, I understand why people think in that way. So I understand the intellectual traditions of the Victorian period are not the same as the intellectual obsessions that we do today, how we think, how we write. But we also understand that British society is built on those traditions, and literature is a brilliant snapshot into the past. Also, it helps us explore a range of issues. I could say that Macbeth is a Shakespearean play dealing with the kings and queens of England and Scotland at that particular point in time, but actually it's really about guilt, madness, regret. It's about learning to live with the consequences of your actions, and these themes, as they do in all of our texts, echo through modern society. Good English literature students, you'll be unsurprised, read. They reread, they go back, they make notes, they revise them regularly. It's about depth of reading. You can explore your ideas, and there's a lot of essay writing. I don't think anyone's going to be shocked that I'm saying that there are essays in English. English literature is where you can develop your ideas, where you can explore them, and you can redraft and edit. It is all about that. That is what makes a great literature student. And I'm just going to end with English can take you to all sorts of places. Careers in art and design. You might be a graphic designer, an art auctioneer. You might be a gallery curator and wanting to promote what you're doing. You could go straight down the writing and media route and become a journalist, an editor, a writer. You might go into education, and whether that's teaching like we do in schools or whether it's university study, language still matters. You might be going into the world of advertising, the world of law, or even anything to do with recruitment and working with people. Communication is at the heart of English, and communication is at the heart of the GCSEs, and that is why everyone in the year group will be studying English language and English literature. And I actually can't wait till we start it. I'm really looking forward to seeing all you guys as we specialise even further into our study of English. Thank you for listening. If you've got any more questions, don't be afraid to either talk to your regular English teacher or email me, Mr. Hayter, and I'll answer it directly. Thanks for listening, everyone.